Hello everyone, welcome to my April 2023 book haul video. Man, this happens all the time. Every time I start recording, there's some random noise outside. It's so frustrating, but also rather bizarre because I live in a very quiet neighborhood. Okay, welcome to my April 2023 book haul video where, yes, as the name suggests, this is where I go through all the books that I've bought for the month of April. This is something I started in the beginning of the year because I do like watching other people's book haul videos, and in fact I get exposed to different kinds of authors, books, genres, whatnot by watching them, and as a bibliophile, that is something I truly appreciate. So I thought, why not, join the not the cult, but join the trend, or whatever you may call it, the internet trend, and do these book haul videos for the other bibliophiles out there. Alrighty, that's a prolonged introduction. It's not required. Let's get started. So the first book I bought this month, which I've already started because this is a really important book for me, as it's kind of like more like an ancillary book for all the other readings that I'm doing in preparation to some projects that I've got planned in the future. But it's this book by Frederick Beiser called German Idealism. The struggle against subjectivism. So it's not really an introductory book. It actually is rather comprehensive, surprisingly, in this. And it's a big book, but still, he's managed to capture, or let's say encapsulate some of the key ideas, still peripherally, but he's gone into a certain amount of depth with Kant to Hegel to Fichte to Schelling, all the German idealists. And personally, for me, this is a very important book. Yes, this too, but in my opinion, in my humble opinion, and what the hell do I know? So take what I say with a grain of salt. With the current developments we're seeing in the contemporary world of philosophy, neuroscience, with psychology, and of course, artificial intelligence, I think the future of philosophy is going to be some variant or some offshoot, or in fact, purely German idealism. I think that's where philosophy is going to, especially with people like Zizek trying to create a kind of transcendental subjectivism. So there's this book by Adrian Johnston, I believe. Let me look it up. He wrote the book. Adrian Johnston. He wrote the book. Let me share my screen. Zizek's Ontology. So this also I've ordered, so I'll probably be covering this in the next book haul video for May. And his other book, A New German Idealism, where he covers Hegel and Zizek. In my opinion, again, because of this idea of transcendental materialism, where my really superficial, peripheral, dumbed down understanding of it is that it's a kind of philosophy that still has the subject, that keeps the subject being a central figure or a central tenet in understanding in its system and in understanding the world as such. But also it doesn't go into any kind of, it doesn't try and make any kind of metaphysical claims in the sense of like something transcendent, something out there. It's still very much based in a materialist ontology. Sorry, one thing I didn't mention is that I've kind of come down with the cold. I couldn't even say that properly. So I do apologize if I sound like shit. But getting back to it, I do believe German idealism is imperative. It's an absolute necessity to understand the life world that we currently are in, with it amidst our times. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to be really focused on German idealism this year in my learning, in my studying, and this book is really helping me out a lot. It's in fact, I've only read only 74 pages yet. I'm still on chapter 4, but I'm already learning a lot as to the kind of the problems Kant was dealing with, especially in his critique of Descartes and whatnot. The next book is Trotsky's Biography by Robert Service. So I wouldn't call myself a Marxist, but I certainly am Marxist adjacent to sound a bit Jakian here. I'm more Hegelian than Marxist.
I define myself more as a Hegelian.
What I'm trying to convey is I do still believe that Marx was basically right about pretty much everything. He got a lot correct in his analysis of modernity and contemporary society, and of course, the economic system. And I'm really interested in Trotsky because I think I'm more interested in. I wouldn't even consider myself to be a revolutionary. I'm more interested in the intellectual side of Marxism, and therefore I've been trying to read more into Trotsky. Despite at the moment I have virtually zero knowledge. I have a very, very peripheral understanding of international Marxism and whatnot. And this book was recommended by a friend of mine. However, the next one called Leon Trotsky's the book he's written, The Lessons of the October Revolution, was I bought this at a Marxism conference that I went to recently. Not recently, about a month ago now, here in Melbourne. And to be honest, the conference was great. I think they certainly are. They are activists, so they're kind of revolutionary Marxists. They're involved and they want to radically, fundamentally change society. While I do believe we need some fundamental changes, I don't know if I would consider myself an activist, nor would I consider myself a kind of a revolutionary Marxist. And even if I was a revolutionary, I would say more in like the Hegelian strain, I would be a conservative revolutionary, if that makes sense. Nonetheless, the point I'm trying to make is that there are some great books. Obviously, I think at least in Australia, they run the biggest left-wing library with works for everyone, from Marx to Trotsky to Lenin to Emma Goldman, to whoever you want to find, or even more contemporary Australian writers. And this book was recommended to get an introduction into Trotsky. And then I do know his kind of like, I wouldn't call it his magnum opus, but some people would, is a big book that he wrote on the October Revolution. So yeah, these two books can you get into. I'm currently reading Fear and Trembling, my Kierkegaard, rereading it for an essay I'm writing. Once I'm done with that, I'll probably start with the biography. It's also been a while since I read a biography, so it'd be kind of nice to read one. And then read these two books, because I do want a better understanding of Marxism, but more Trotskyism, because if you think about it, all modern Marxists or contemporary Marxists are really Trotskyists. So if I'm going to be in that circle and try to tackle and work through those ideas, I certainly need some kind of foundational starting point. The next book, oh man, another good one, is of course by Meister Eckhart himself, my favorite mystic. Although I'm not sure if I'll read this anytime soon, given I've already got so many in the pipeline. In fact, when I mean pipeline, it's more like the book pile right next to my bed and next to my desk, which is where I do most of my reading. But certainly want to get into Eckhart. On the book that I've been writing for the past, well, if you really, to be honest, maybe for the past 3 years, but seriously for the past 6 months. Not really seriously. Pseudo-seriously, let's say, for the past 6 months. I do touch on some of the mystics, and since the book primarily is around love and religion and God, I obviously need to refer to Meister Eckhart. Essentially, every theologian, every existentialist thinker that I've read always refers to Meister Eckhart, so I need to read some of his own work. I've never read anything about him, in fact. So the next book, again, I picked it up from the Marxist conference. This is in fact by an Australian. So I believe Tony Cliff is the guy. He's an Australian Marxist, British Australian Marxist, who wrote some really good books. So it's called Russia from Workers' State to State Capitalism. This again is kind of how the Russian Revolution went wrong, and how the bureaucracy took power, and then Stalinism happened, and all of that. A lot of leftists. One thing I did pick up from that conference was a lot of leftists and Marxists, and specifically, love talking about what went wrong in the Russian Revolution, and really talking about the past, which sometimes, trust me, I'm not a historical thinker. I think one of the greatest things Hegel did, in fact, was introduce history to philosophy. I know he didn't just do it, but at least he popularized it, let's say, or he showed how vital historicism is for philosophy. But sometimes I do think, like the good old analytical philosophers, we need to not worry too much about the past, or not live in the past. And I kind of did get that feeling from at the conference. And so the books I picked up really from the conference outside the biography were both on the Russian Revolution. Anyway, I'm just thinking out loud here. So the next book, last but not least, is by my friend Hunter Coates. It's his first book, Conspiracy and the Subject. Now, if you want to watch the podcast I did with him, to the author of this book, Hunter Coates, I'll leave a link down below. It was a brilliant conversation. This guy, man, I just found out that he's probably like in his early 20s, maybe like 21, 22, super young. But he's brilliant. He just did a video on Hegel's Science of Logic, explaining the whole thing in 15 minutes. Now, of course, like any video that's 15 minutes long, he can't do the actual arguments, the actual book justice. You need to read the book for that. But I just thought it was brilliant. It's anyone who can make a video with such brevity and encapsulate Hegel's Science of Logic, that is an accomplishment on its own. So it's brilliant. I probably will read this book, take down some notes, and have Hunter on the podcast again, purely to discuss this book, because we didn't really discuss this book because I haven't read it yet. But this is bloody interesting, isn't it? Who would have thought? Conspiracy and the Subject. I know the only other person I know, only other Lacanian that I know that's been taking conspiracy theory seriously is Alenka Zupančič. And the fact that Hunter wrote a whole book about it, that's much needed for the contemporary Lacanian discussions. Alrighty, those are the books I bought. I hope I put some ideas, thoughts, thinkers, books, of course, in your mind for you to like play around with, and perhaps you could buy some of these books if they do interest you. Once again, man, I'm really sorry about my cold. I'm even finding it hard to think clearly because I've got really like a heavy head. And I'm a bit foggy with everything. So the last point I want to make is most of these books I'm reading, like for instance this book right now, German Idealism, whatever takeaways that I have, I'll either write them as like sort of short book notes on my website, or generally more than even my website, I just tweet them. So I take a photo and I'll just tweet any good insights, any good gems that I have from these books. So do follow me on Twitter if you do want some insights on some of these books I discuss. Having said that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next book haul video, or the next video if you're a regular viewer. Cheers. Thanks.